Доброго дня усім. Тема наступної прес-конференції – знесення кіосків з продажу преси як пряме обмеження доступу громадян до інформації. У нас в гостях Ганна Кулаковська, директор агентства «Союздрук», Oleksiy Babanskyi, президент Асоціації розповсюджувачів преси України та Анна Vakulchuk, адвокат. Прошу до слова.
Добрий день, шановні пане та панове.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kulakovska Hanna Kulakovska, and I've been working in the Soyuzdruk Agency since 1984, and from April 2005, I've been a CEO of this enterprise. We have more than 100 years of experience and good reputation in the market of printed news dissemination. And the pretext for today's news release is a situation which recently appeared around our enterprise. As you maybe know, the most accessible form of the printed media dissemination is the existence of our kiosks. But unfortunately, during 27 years of Ukrainian independence, our enterprise has lost almost 230 of kiosks for printed media dissemination. Although we disseminate almost 600 local newspapers and magazines and many books, around 100 names of books, during first 6 months of this year and during 2017, printed mass media amounted to 92% of our sales turnover, which is more than 10 million copies. 8% of sales turnover includes accompanying goods which are not prohibited for retail sales. During 2017-2018, our enterprise had paid more than 15 million of hryvnia. In January 2017, under economic pressure of economic instability, and in order to preserve the network of 75 kiosks, they were temporarily transferred to leaseholders, and under condition that they will sell printed media which are demanded in the market. The necessary permits were received. Our enterprise cooperated with municipal authorities supporting new programs and initiative, and thus we supported initiative on bringing into order parking of the cars, and we became the enterprise which disseminates scratch cards. We expected that this cooperation is good and that we carry out important social function. But on June 18, around 5 p.m., in Facebook social network, there appeared the announcement that on June 19th, the Municipal Commission about temporary structures will be summoned, and the fourth item of that agenda was about denunciation of the permits issued for the kiosks located on Перемоги Avenue, 57 Перемоги Avenue and 23 Shatarostaveli, and the repealing of special passports issued for these kiosks because they were not used in line with the purposes indicated in the passports and permits. I would like to mention that before we did not receive any notices about improper use of those structures. So we have revealed that the document, which was called this statement of the Commission about temporary structures, was drafted about the kiosks, which were not on the territory of our kiosk, but on the territory of the nearby market. All the rejections and notes and votes which were sent to the municipal authorities were rejected. Dear friends, I would like to mention that the activities about about termination of the contract and about withdrawal of permits about kiosk on Shatarostaveli Street, Commission took only after the second vote, and in result of all those improper actions, on July 4th, 2018, without preliminary notice and in advance notice to our enterprise, without any legal documents, the demolishing of those kiosks took place. Later, we were informed that in line with the assignment as of July 2, 2018, the municipal authority has authorized the special service to demolish a kiosk on 19 Shatarostaveli, and the document on basis of which it was made also dealt with the kiosk located on 19 Shatarostaveli Street. As Ukrainian citizen, I do not understand that this kiosk, which they have demolished, had been standing on that very location for 22 years, and based on the agreement for the lease of land dated from March 11, 1996. But besides that, we would like to say that that news kiosk had been standing there for more than 50 years, because back in 1996 it had been standing there for many years. By the way, the document, the statement based on which the kiosk was demolished, we managed to get to our disposal with special assistance of a lawyer. As far as I can understand, that a statement was compiled on June 15, on Friday, in one of the departments of municipal authority. And on Monday, June 18th, this statement was included into the agenda of the commission session. Understanding that and predicting the impunity, a group of bureaucrats who substituted the notions and manipulated with facts, violated legislation, and made decision about repealing the permits to another 10 kiosks for press releases and news releases, and now they again state that they violate the allegedly violate the function and sell the stationery. This position of the Commission is based on the statements made by special inspectors, and those inspectors have not noticed that there were newspapers and magazines in those kiosks, but had noticed only bottles with water and stationery. Probably those inspectors do not know how do the newspapers and magazines look like. Upon publication of the Commission minutes and decisions, we received emails to our mail box signed by Mr. Zakharchenko P. About repealing of the contracts. By the way, I have revealed that Mr. Zakharchenko does not work in the department for almost 3 years. The reason why those contracts were terminated and those documents were repealed was indicated as the breach of substantial terms of the contract. But in line with the document that we have, that the function of the kiosk was sale of printed media, which should amount to 70% of the journal sales turnover. And the prohibition to sell alcoholic drinks and goods which are subject to excise duty. I would like to ensure you that we do not violate these terms and conditions which are indicated in all our agreements with the municipal authorities. In line with the information that we received today, the Commission is going to repeal the permits for another 50 kiosks of our agency because of the violation of their intended function. These activities, as we believe, is a pressure of government officials and municipal officials aiming to destroy our local printed media dissemination kiosks. By the way, today in the morning we had the demonstration in front of the Kyiv City Council. I believe that this the criminal team chaired by by People's Deputy Bila Tsarkovets, and that government officials from Kyiv City State Administration, Mr. Andreev, who is director of Kyiv Blagoustroy Enterprise, the deputy head of the architecture department of the Kyiv Municipal Council, Mr. Horbach. These are those criminals who want to destroy the kiosks which do not belong to them. As far as I know, Bila Tsarkovets and Horbach provide wrong information about what is offered in our kiosks. I am ready to invite all the journalists and visit all the 220 kiosks and demonstrate what is sold there. I believe that this criminal group which has sold our locations to one of the tobacco tycoons in Kyiv. They want to destroying us. Today's authorities want to prevent people from education and sell all the things except media. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm representing the interests of Soyuzdruk Enterprise. Every day we keep hearing from the power officials that they are effectively curbing corruption, that they are taking successful decisions about NABU, about SAP, about anti-corruption court, etc. But in Kyiv, we witness systemic breach of legislation by municipal officials, which remain unpunished on behalf of the law enforcement agencies. There's neglection of the law and support of the interests of some specific people is carried out by the Commission on Temporary Constructions, which was established to provide advice to the municipal council, had exaggerated its powers and passed the protocols number 7576, in line with which this commission authorizes the architecture department of municipal council to repeal the passports, architectural passports issued to the printed media kiosks, news outlets, and this document refers to the statements made by inspectors of this commission. The first such statement for the first time was published on July 9th, and after insistent requests, we had received all those statements. All the latest statements on the same subject, but dealing with different kiosks located in different addresses, were signed by the same person. The documents, the statements say that they are pictures of or photo registers of the violations, but unfortunately they do not provide any date or any pictures. And besides that, in the document, when they claim about functional violations, they are not right. The only substantial condition for those kiosks is to sell news publications and magazines amounting to 70% of the sales turnover. And at the same time, they keep with all the rules established for press kiosks. Minutes number 89, dated from July 2, 2018, says that Soyuzdruk kiosks located on 23 Shatarostaveli Street has not responded to a claim signed in January. All other kiosks became subject of this statement about demolition in June. Only one kiosk had to be demolished in line with the statement made in February. Then, in line with the special decision of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, there are special rules about submission of such claims by municipal authorities. If there is such a claim issued in line with the special rules, then it should be demolished within 3 days by municipal authorities. Now, there is a question for us: why municipal authorities, upon commission meeting, violated those rules and demolished the kiosks based on February statement, February claim? Because back in February, Soyuzdruk Agency had submitted all the necessary documents requested in the claim back in February, and after that, back in February again, that municipal commission had no further claims to us. Then, the demolition of the kiosks was done without signing a special document about the fact of demolition. Then, after demolition, after the demolition, the kiosks were not secured properly, which may result in damage and losses for the enterprise. Then in mid-July, we had the enterprise Soyuzdruk had received strange email messages from a person which had not been an employee of municipal authority for more than 3 years, but nevertheless, those messages stated about demolition. Then, in those documents, it was not mentioned which substantial terms and conditions of the agreement were violated. Then, the same contracts between municipal authorities and Soyuzdruk suggest that all the discrepancies in position, all the disputes should be first discussed between the parties, but the enterprise never received any claims from the municipal authorities. We never received any explanation from the municipal authorities. That's why we refer to a resolution of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine from 2009, which says that the local authorities should stop demolition of the news kiosks and throwing out the newsrooms of printed mass media from their premises. Thus, we observe clear violation of several Ukrainian laws about printed media, the law Ukraine of Information, resolution of the Verkhovna Rada, which I mentioned, and also some resolutions of the Municipal Council, Kyiv Municipal Council. Good afternoon, Oleksiy, Babanskyi. I'm representing Association of the Ukrainian Association of Press Distributors. First of all, today's demonstration started by the employees of Soyuzdruk Agency could only imagine the motivation of municipal authorities. Some 10-15 years ago, we observed similar processes. And at that time, some business structures, some political structures wanted to conquer the kiosks for printed media dissemination. But today, Soyuzdruk is the last operator distributing printed mass media in the Kyiv city. They have experienced staff of personnel. All the last operators amounting to 5 such enterprises back 10 years ago, all of them, they had already disappeared because disappeared from the market because of economic pressure. They were either demolished or changed the profile. So today, head of Svoboda faction in the Kyiv Municipal Council, Mr. Saratyuk, who today addressed to the demonstration under Kyiv Municipal Council, confirmed that all those activities are intended to destroy press, printed media dissemination kiosks, which have been located in the best places from logistics point of view, and all those activities were started by Mr. Bilatsarkivets, who is a member of Kyiv City Council and advisor to the Kyiv mayor. In mid-June, I tried to maintain dialogue with Mr. Bilatsarkivets, provided some arguments, suggested to organize a meeting with the Soyuzdruk enterprise, suggested to provide necessary documentation to prevent today's situation, but unfortunately, I did this via messenger, but unfortunately he never responded to my messages, and thus he did not want to communicate with the employees of Soyuzdruk. The second, what we can clearly observe, the lack of punishment for corrupt bureaucrats, but bureaucrats of the top-ranked bureaucrats, they collude with other forces, and for example, in this very case, the kiosks of printed media were demolished for the sake of tobacco kiosks, and those top bureaucrats probably do not understand the consequences of their illegal actions. They actually are creating an artificial threat for the entire informational space of Ukraine. My colleague, Ms. Vakulchuk, may confirm that when the last mighty operator on printed media dissemination, when it would disappear from the Kyiv market, this would have very grave consequences, because up to 90% of news releases are disseminated via media kiosks. Thus, all the printed media will experience drastic cuts off in circulation, which will make the newspapers, printed newspapers, much more expensive, and thus weekly newspaper may cost up to 50 hryvnia, and this may result in cutting down the circulation, and then cutting down the names of newspapers, that is result in disappearance of newspapers. In Ukraine, we have a big number of newspapers which are able to survive because of the fact that they are disseminated via Soyuzdruk Agency. I believe that this is the issue which entails national security, which creates a threat to the fourth branch of power. This endangers all the employees involved into logistics, dissemination. Actually, those bureaucrats who had started this process, they do not even imagine the outcomes, grave outcomes of this step. I do not see any constructive position or proactive position from the law enforcement agencies. I believe that there is a pretext to file an investigation case, although it seems that this is a story about some enterprise, but actually the threats are big for the entire Ukraine. During these days, I had meetings with many members of parliament, representatives of Ukrainian authorities. We applied to the parliamentary committees on the freedom of speech, on the entrepreneurship, and Ukrainian Association of Journalists also supported us. We have joint statement made by us and National Association of Journalists. It says that there is a threat for the country in demolition of the printed media kiosks. Actually, today, all the branches of power have been preparing to the electoral race, and those authorities who should keep an eye on compliance with legislation, they pay no attention at this essential breach of law. It was Association of Journalists initiated in 1996 the passage of that parliamentary resolution which Anna quoted. The intention of that resolution was to preserve the news release kiosks both at the national and regional level, but unfortunately local bureaucrats pay no attention at this intention, and actually they are acting adversely in this case. Any questions? One question from me. Have you been filing a case to court? Those documents which we managed to get as of today here, we had filed pledge to court, and today we plan to file a case to court. To whom you will refer to the department, Municipal Department of Architecture and Municipal Department of the city structures, and we will file a case to the Kyiv County Court. Thank you.